Hello everyone! I only have time for one upload today, but that's the reason I chose this game, as the game is, well, nothing short of magical. This was played in 1970, it's USSR against the rest of the world. This is round 2, and Boris Spassky demolishes, as the reigning world champion, the Danish Grandmaster Nimzo-Larsen in 19 moves. And I don't know if this is officially Spassky's Immortal game. Some say that his win in the King's Gambit against David Bronstein is Spassky's Immortal game, but I definitely prefer this one, but I'll let you be the judge of that. So Larsen has the white pieces and he plays b3, the Larsen attack. We have e5 by Spassky, bishop to b2, knight to c6, and c4. We have knight to f6, and now, well, already a move like e3 or knight to c3 would be preferred. But Larsen plays knight to f3 and allows Spassky to push e4. We have knight to d4, and Spassky plays bishop to c5, pretty much forcing Larsen to capture on c6. We have knight captures on c6 and d captures on c6. And okay, Larsen did double Spassky's c-pawn here, but you can see that Spassky has this beautiful bishop on c5, eyeing f2, his light square bishop is ready to jump into the attack, the queen is completely open, he's, well, ready to castle, this knight is ready to jump to g4, this will be very hard to play for Larsen. We have e3, as Larsen doesn't really have an option of developing freely. Bishop to f5 by Spassky, preparing to castle queenside, and also overprotecting this e4 pawn, completely denying Larsen any ideas of d3 or even d4. So queen to c2, and we have queen to e7, preparing to castle queenside. Bishop to e2, Spassky castles, and we have f4. Larsen tries to develop any way he can. And, well, this simply isn't enough. Spassky immediately jumps into the attack. He plays knight to g4. And already here, it's extremely hard for Larsen to find a move. For example, a simple move like eliminating this knight here on g4, for example, bishop captures on g4, would be not bishop captures on g4, but with queen to h4 check. And, well, you pretty much have to move the king. If you play something like g3, queen captures on g4, your king will be stuck on e1 for the rest of the game, and, well, the black kingside pawns are ready to be pushed forward. And after knight to g4, you definitely don't want to play a move like knight to c3. This loses immediately. If knight to c3 is played, Spassky has this resource of playing rook captures on d2. And after a move like queen captures on d2, you have bishop captures on e3, now with an attack on the queen, and the queen pretty much doesn't have anywhere to go. For example, if queen to c2, you get bishop to f2 check, and no matter where the king goes, Larsen loses the queen. For example, king to f1, knight e3, with a royal fork, loses the queen. If you go to d1, again knight e3 loses the queen, and if you go king to d2, now e3 check, and opening up an attack from the bishop on f5 loses the queen. So after this knight to g4 move, Larsen tried g3, now stopping any ideas of queen to h4, but here Spassky finds another idea. He plays h5. We have h3 by Larsen. And in this position, well, a move like knight captures on e3 would be perfectly fine for Spassky, and this would be probably winning. But Spassky finds the Immortal move, and he plays h4. And here Larsen really doesn't have a move. Probably the best move would be to capture the knight with the bishop, but Larsen tries to defend this, and he plays h captures on g4. Spassky plays h captures on g3. And what do you do here? Well, what's the idea? The idea is if you capture the bishop on f5 with g captures on f5, you get rook captures on h1. And this is terrible for white. Only move is bishop to f1, and now g2, and there is no defense against the g captures on f1. And after h captures on g3, if you capture the rook on h8, you get rook captures on h8, and, well, still g2 is a terrible threat. If you play something like king to f1, you get rook to h1 check, king g2, and now queen to h4, and there is no defense against checkmate. So after h captures on g3, Larsen tried rook to g1, but now Spassky continues the game in great style. He plays rook to h1. now threatening rook captures on g1. Larsen captures the rook, rook captures on h1, and Spassky plays g2, now opening up this queen's diagonal for queen to h4 check. And here Larsen played rook to f1, and well, capturing the rook would be perfectly fine for black, and this would be in fact winning. But let's see what happens if rook to g1 is played. If rook to g1, queen to h4, you have king to d1, and now queen to h1, threatening to capture the rook on g1. And well, what are you gonna do here? If you capture the queen, you get g captures on h1 with check, bishop to f1, and queen captures on f1 with checkmate. So after g2, Larsen tried this rook to f1 idea, but of course Spassky didn't capture the rook. He played queen to h4 with check, king to d1 was played, now g captures on f1 with check, bishop captures on f1, and here Spassky plays bishop captures on g4 with check. Larsen played bishop to e2, and Spassky finished the game. This is move 19 with queen to h1 checkmate. But it doesn't help if you play king to c1. You simply get queen to e1 with check, and there is no more squares for the white king. Only move is queen to d1, and you get queen captures on d1 with checkmate. But after this bishop to e2, Spassky finished the game well, elegantly with queen to h1 checkmate. So this is probably, of all the games I've seen by Boris Spassky, this is the most beautiful game, definitely. I would like to hear your opinion, if you agree, and what is your favorite game played by the reigning champion, as this was played in 1970. I would like to thank James Norwood and Arjan Gerritsen for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon.